From despair to destiny, how a poor girl sold for cash discovers love with a CEO shocking twist. In a bustling city where dreams collide with despair, a dark secret lurked beneath the glittering surface. Arya, a girl with ragged shoes and torn dreams, found herself standing at an intersection of fate. The air was thick with whispers, shadows lurking behind every corner of her life. It was a night lit by street lamps casting eerie shadows, and Arya felt the weight of the world pressing against her chest, like a vice threatening to crush her spirit. She was about to do something unimaginable, something that would send shockwaves through her life and the lives of those around her. Just moments ago, she had received a message that tingled with both dread and hope. An offer cold, calculated, and enticing. The kind of offer that could change everything, or leave her shattered on the sidewalk. She could escape the suffocating grind of survival for a taste of something more, a temporary escape for a price no one should pay. It sent shivers down her spine as her heart raced with impulsive thoughts. Would anyone understand? Would they care? The silence following her decision was almost deafening, but she pressed on, driven by that flicker of desire for something beyond despair. As she approached the opulent office building with its towering glass facade, the stark contrast was hard to ignore. Inside, a world of luxury was buzzing like a hive, unaware of the fragile girl stepping into their realm. The air was perfumed with money and power, a foreign scent that both intoxicated and terrified her. The whispers grew louder in her mind, echoing doubts and fears. Yet, as she entered the plush reception area, a feeling of exhilaration washed over her, tinged with danger. What she was about to do felt like a dramatic leap off a cliff. She could either soar or smash to the ground, but then, just as she stood on the brink, a figure caught her attention. A man tall, commanding, with an aura that demanded attention. He eyed her, and in that moment, the world around them blurred into nothing. A connection tingled in the air, like electricity humming between them. Who was he? What did he want? Did he hold the key to her escape, or was he just another player in this twisted game? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With a pounding heart, she wondered if selling herself for a simple payment would lead to salvation or destruction. The stakes rose as reality blurred. As his piercing gaze locked onto hers, she felt that familiar tightening in her chest. What secret was hidden behind those dark eyes? The tension crackled, weaving a web of uncertainty around them. The night was just beginning, and she could already taste the danger on her lips. Would this encounter lead to the love she secretly craved, or would it plunge her further into a darkness she could barely comprehend? Arya was teetering on the edge of destiny, and the fall could change everything. Arya's heart raced as she stood frozen, caught in the hunter-esque gaze of the man who seemed to embody everything she longed for: power, mystery, and an undeniable allure. The building around her pulsed with life, but it felt as if they were the only two souls in existence. His presence seemed to distance her from the clamor of the world outside, sharp yet comforting, like the moment before a storm. "Are you lost?" he asked, his voice low and velvety, wrapping around her like a warm blanket yet laced with an unsettling edge. Her breath caught. "I am here to meet someone," she replied, grasping at a facade of confidence, though her hands trembled slightly at her sides. That he stepped closer, narrowing the space between them, and she could see the slight curve of a smirk on his lips. "I know why you're here, Arya." His words dripped with an almost predatory intrigue. "But tell me, is it worth the price?" Her throat tightened as she felt the weight of his scrutiny. Was he a savior or a predator? She thought of her decision, the desire to break free from her grim existence gnawing at her insides. How could she explain her desperation? The sacrifices she had made, each darker than the last. "Why do you care?" She whispered, afraid but desperate for his attention. Because I see you, he answered, his gaze piercing through her carefully constructed defenses. I know what it's like to be in the shadows. He paused, and for a heartbeat, everything blurred again. She could almost see her life laid out before her, each decision, each moment of despair, illuminated in blinding clarity. Look, I can help you, he continued, his voice dropping to a near conspiratorial whisper. But we have to play this game carefully. It's a dangerous world out there, and people like us, we don't get second chances. His words sent a shiver down her spine. Could she trust him? Could she dare to believe in an escape, a way to claw back her dignity? The questions hung in the air, heavy and electric. Who are you? She asked, her voice barely a murmur, desperation creeping in as she wrestled with the decision looming over her like a dark cloud. That he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Someone who has witnessed the fragility of dreams. He stepped back for a moment, glancing towards the reception desk, the unyielding world of power watching them both. But in this game, Arya, we must both play our parts. Are you ready to take that leap? Her heart thudded like a war drum. Was she ready to step into a world she didn't understand, chasing a flicker of hope at the risk of losing everything? Just as she was about to respond, a sharp voice echoed from behind him, cutting through the heavy tension like a blade. Jake! There you are. We need you for the meeting. A sharply dressed woman waved from the entrance, her expression a mix of urgency and impatience. Arya's stomach twisted. She sensed an immediate shift in the air, as if a threat loomed just beyond, waiting to strike. Your answer. Jake persisted, his eyes fixed on hers, unwavering. She opened her mouth, but before she could form the words, he leaned in closer, his breath warm against her ear. Don't let this moment slip away from you. We only get one chance. And just like that, he pulled away, plastering on a charming smile as he strode toward the woman, leaving Arya engulfed by a whirlwind of confusion and a rush of emotions that felt too overwhelming to process. With the night still young, destiny was pulling at her. But what would she choose? Would this night open a door to a life she dared to imagine, or would it consume her whole? The answers danced tantalizingly out of reach, igniting a fire of anticipation and dread within her. The clock was ticking, and with time slipping through her fingers, one thing lingered in her mind: would she seize this moment, or watch it fade like the shadows that danced outside? Arya stood there, feeling invisible threads of fate tugging at her, intertwining with the chaos surrounding her. The pulse of lights and laughter blurred into a distant hum, and all that remained was Jake's piercing gaze and the weight of his unsaid promise. The woman he had rushed off to meet was still watching her, curiosity etched on her face. Are you okay? She asked, eyes narrowing with concern. Arya forced a smile, a shield to guard her vulnerability. Yeah, just unexpected company. The woman nodded, still scrutinizing her. Right. Well, you don't want to miss this opportunity. It's a big deal. A big deal. What did that even mean? The world around her could be a game of chess, and she felt like a pawn, unsteady, appropriate for sacrifice. As the meeting droned on nearby, Arya's mind buzzed with possibilities. The blocked doors of her old life screamed to be opened, but would it lead her to liberation or further down a path of despair? Her heart ached with a desire for something more. She glanced back at where Jake had disappeared. The way he looked at her, the intensity, the urgency, like he understood her in a way no one else had. And yet what price would be asked in return? Suddenly, her phone buzzed in her pocket, the insistent vibration cutting through her haze. She fished it out and found a message from Laura, her closest friend. Are you still at that charity event? They're saying some rich CEO is looking for talent. Don't let this chance get away. Arya chewed on her lower lip, thoughts racing. Should she reach for the unknown? What if Laura was right? This could be her escape route, the elevator to something more than she ever imagined. But what if this CEO was just another shadowy figure, another part of the life she wanted to discard? Her heart hammered in her chest. Steeling herself, she pocketed the phone and stalked toward the meeting area. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown, the air thick with anxiety and hope intermingled. As she approached, voices rose and fell. Jake stood near the head of the long table, his back turned, yet she could feel the magnetic pull of his energy from a distance. The woman from before had joined him. They spoke in hushed tones, and for a moment, doubt swept through her. Was she really ready to step into this? Arya hesitated, the room spinning as if her surroundings were mocking her. She could go back to the safety of the mundane. But her fingers tingled, and her pulse quickened at the thought of diving headfirst into danger. "Okay, showtime," she breathed. As she moved forward, she locked onto Jake, determination igniting her steps. What was that about the game? She half challenged, half pleaded, her voice barely breaking through the noise. Jake turned, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Arya!" he exclaimed, an almost genuine delight coloring his expression. "I wasn't sure if you'd come." "Neither was I," she admitted, her voice stronger now, cutting through her self-doubt like a sword. "But you made me curious." He chuckled, low and meaningful, leaning closer. "Curiosity can reveal more than a lifetime of experience. Are you prepared to enter this world? It's not all sparkles and glitter." "Tell me what I need to know," she demanded, and the applause from the meeting faded like a distant echo, leaving just the two of them, suspended in this moment. "Then prepare yourself, because once you step in, there's no way out without leaving pieces of yourself behind," Jake warned, the gravity of his words heavy in the air, the promise of adventure and danger hung thickly, a palpable tension crackling between them. Something primal surged within her, a mixture of thrill and fear. "Let us dance with the shadows," then, she finally said, but before she could take another breath, a loud crash came from across the room. Glass shattered, and the atmosphere shifted from charged anticipation to explosive chaos. Gasps filled the air, eyes darting toward the source of the commotion. Arya clutched Jake's arm instinctively, her heart racing as a new reality set in. What the hell was happening now? She had stepped onto a battleground instead of a stage, and the night was just beginning to erupt into something far more dangerous than she had ever envisioned. But one question loomed in her mind as the tension thickened: what would she have to lose this time? Glass sparkled on the floor like stars fallen from the sky, and Arya felt her breath catch as the chaos erupted around her. A man, disheveled and wild-eyed, stood at the epicenter of the shattered pieces. He was shouting, his voice laced with panic. "This isn't what you think." The room froze, the laughter and music replaced by an eerie silence as eyes riveted on him. Jake's grip tightened around Arya's arm. "I swear, it was just a mistake." Arya's heart thundered in her chest. Who was this man? And what mistake was he talking about? She could feel the urgency in Jake's body, a palpable tension that shot through her, urging her to move. The woman who had been speaking with Jake a moment ago stepped forward, her brows drawn together. "Mark, stop. You need to calm down. No one is going to hurt you." "Mark?" The name echoed in her mind, but Arya had no idea who he was beyond the chaos unfolding. The crowd began murmuring, anxiety weaving through them like a tight-knit rope. "What are you doing here?" Another voice piped up, icy and accusing. "Didn't you leave this behind?" Suddenly, Mark lunged forward, shoving aside a table with a fierce determination. Chairs clattered backward, making Arya jump. The collective gasp of spectators added to the rising tension, tightening the grip of fear over the entire room. "It's not over. You can't take everything from me." Mark's desperate plea broke into an explosive fury, shattering the atmosphere even further. He was a man at the brink of sanity, of loss, of everything. "Let us get out of here," Jake whispered, urgency tightening the line of his voice. But Arya stayed rooted in place, a magnetic force pulling her toward the chaos. She wanted to feel the adrenaline prickling her skin, the danger that mingled with excitement. "Wait, Jake," she breathed. "What is happening?" Before he could respond, Mark pointed a trembling finger at the crowd. You're all complicit. You've seen it. This world takes, and it never gives back. Arya's pulse tripled, her body responding with a shiver of thrill and fear. What could he mean? A part of her wanted to turn away, to escape the dark underbelly of this night. But another part, the part she had buried for so long, urged her to stay, to understand. Jake turned to her, sensing the shift in her demeanor. Arya, please, this isn't the time. We need to go. But it was more than curiosity now. There was a deep-rooted connection to Mark's words, a resonance in her own life. I need to know what he's talking about, she said, her voice steady, resolute. Mark glanced around, realizing he had the crowd's attention. His wild eyes found Arya's, and in that moment, something shifted. They locked gazes, a silent understanding passing between them. It's a system, you see. He continued, as if she were the only one that mattered. They buy and sell dreams just like they buy and sell people. If you want to make it, you have to be ruthless or pay the price. The vicious edge of his words sliced through her guts. Her heart dropped in a mix of fear and intrigue, torn between her old life and a darker reality she'd never wished to confront. Before she could gather her thoughts, Jake pulled her back, urgency clawing at him. Enough of this. We have to leave. But the truth clung to Arya like a second skin, a burden of revelation now tied to her fate. Escape felt more like a retreat, and a voice deep inside her whispered of the uncharted destiny ahead. As Mark's voice trailed off into confused murmurs, chaos shifted again, shadows dancing against the walls. Something louder loomed. With each beat of her heart, she teetered on a precipice, the world shifting in maddening ways. Jake! She cried out, her heart racing. What if this is just the start? He paused, turning to her with a fear she hadn't seen before. Then you need to decide, Arya. Are you brave enough to find out? Arya stood there, caught in the web of uncertainty. The chaos buzzed around her, but one thing became crystal clear: the night was far from over, and every decision from here could cost her everything. What happens if I take a step forward? She wondered aloud, her heart pounded with questions that begged to be answered. Suddenly, a loud bang erupted again, this time from the back of the room, and she spun around just in time to witness the doors fly open. Lights flashed, and a group of stern-faced individuals streamed inside, their intent as shrouded as the looming storm above them. Get down! Someone yelled. Arya's instincts kicked in, but it was too late. The game they were playing had escalated into something dangerously real. But what awaited her on the other side of the door? What corner of fate had she stumbled into? Arya didn't have time to process what was happening. The moment she turned, the sharp clap of boots echoed against the floor as the figures moved into the room. They advanced like a wall of ice, cutting through the tension, ready to impose their authority. Get down! Everyone on the floor now! A commanding voice pierced through the confusion, striking like lightning in the dark. Panic surged through Arya like an electric current. She turned to Jake, who looked equally alarmed, and watched as others began to drop instinctively, the collective weight of fear pressing down. She felt Jake pull her close, shielding her with his body, but her eyes were glued to Mark. The wild-eyed man's gaze darted frantically. He looked like prey caught in a trap, and suddenly her heart ached for him. He began shouting again, his voice rising over the chaos, "They won't stop until they silence me. You have to understand." The stern figures moved with purpose, scanning the crowd for disruption, their eyes hard like steel. One of them, a woman dressed in a sharp suit, stepped forward, her expression icy, unyielding. "Mark Carson, you're coming with us." "Now," she commanded, and Arya shivered at the icy authority in her tone. Mark took a step back, shaking his head. "No. I want to go back. You can't make me." Fear wrapped around Arya like a choking vine. She had never seen someone fight so fiercely for their life. It was as if the chaos had revealed a truth inside her, a latent fire she had forgotten existed. She couldn't stand by any longer. "Jake," she whispered, unsure if he could even hear her over the din. "We have to help him." He cast her a frantic glance, his brow creased with worry. "Help him? Are you insane? They'll turn on us. But what if he's right?" Her voice trembled, caught between fear and conviction. "What if this is about more than just him?" Before he could utter another word, Mark suddenly lunged towards the approaching group, a last-ditch effort fueled by desperation. "You can't control me. This ends tonight." The guards moved in like wolves. Aria's stomach churned as she watched the scuffle erupt, Mark being grabbed, fists raised, voices clashing in a cacophony of shouts. "Stop. You don't have to do this," she cried, her heart pounding in her chest. Mark turned towards her just before he was restrained, a raw vulnerability in his expression. "You have to wake up," he shouted, his voice cracking. "They will do this to you too if you let them." Aria felt the weight of his words knock the wind from her lungs. Without thinking, she pushed herself past Jake, the crowd parting in surprised gasps. "Wait!" she yelled, desperation spilling from her lips. "I want to know what is happening." In that instant, Jake grabbed her wrist. "Aria! No! Get back!" But she was a tidal wave, surging forward, determined to push against the tide of fear and oppression. "Stop!" she cried out again. "I want to let you take him." The authoritative woman turned, her eyes narrowing. "This doesn't concern you, girl," she said coldly. But it did concern her. The words twisted inside her, awakening the dormant part of her that had yearned to fight against injustice. Wasn't it always easier to look away? That was the lesson life had taught her: stay small, stay safe. Yet here she was, heart racing, breathless with resolve. Mark's eyes bore into hers, and for a split second, a flicker of hope ignited within. "Help me find the truth," he shouted, "it's all connected." The world around her spun with a dizzying intensity as the guards tightened their grips on Mark. The room buzzed with tension, a pulsing energy that mirrored her racing heart. She could feel that pivotal moment swelling, time slowing, every decision spiraling out beneath her feet like loose gravel, and then, shocking clarity hit her. "I'm not backing down," she declared, her voice slicing through the chaos like a dam breaking. "Aria, no!" Jake shouted, panic encasing his words, but she didn't care. As adrenaline coursed through her veins, and the weight of possibilities weighed heavily on her shoulders, she realized that staying silent would be her chains. "Move!" one of the guards shouted, moving toward her with imposing authority. Frozen but defiantly steadfast, Aria knew the line had been drawn. With the chaos of the room swirling around her, she thought, could one choice really change everything? And as all eyes turned in her direction, she felt the crackle of impending change. This was just the beginning. Could she muster the courage to break free and uncover the hidden realities that entwined their lives? Or had she just signed up for her own undoing? The room held its breath as Aria's declaration hung in the air. The guard, a rock-hard man with eyes that seemed to have seen every shade of darkness, barely hesitated. Instead, he lunged at her, a predator zeroing in on its target. "Get her out of the way!" he barked, and suddenly, all at once, the atmosphere cracked like a brittle bone. Aria's instincts kicked in, and she dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the grasp of the advancing figure. In that fleeting moment, the space engulfed in chaos felt electric, and she felt the sharp rise of adrenaline coursing through her veins. She faced Mark, whose struggles persisted against the unyielding grip of authority. There was no turning back now. "Whatever happens, you can't let them take him," she yelled, her voice breaking through the frantic screams and gasps of the crowd. Mark's eyes darted around, frenzied yet oddly comforted by her fierce determination. "You need to understand there's a lot at stake," he shouted back through gritted teeth as he fought against his captors. His words hung in her mind, sparking a flicker of understanding amid her fear. They weren't merely snatching Mark away, they were trying to bury the truth beneath layers of silence. Jake stepped beside her, a conflicted look battling within him. What do we do? We can't just. But there was no time for hesitation. Arya beat back the self-doubt pounding in her chest and reached for Jake. Help me. We need to create a distraction. Without waiting for a response, she snatched a nearby chair, feeling its cold, hard surface in her grip. With a deep breath, she hurled it towards the wall, the loud crash silencing the chaos momentarily as gaze turned towards the shattering noise. What the one of the guards barked, lost momentarily in disarray. Seizing the moment, Arya lunged for Mark. Now! She screamed, adrenaline blurring the line between sense and impulse. Jake grasped her arm, and together, they pushed through the throng of bodies. The crowd, sensing the rebellion, erupted into frantic noise, creating an opening she needed. Mark, fueled by her fervor, fought free from the guard's chaotic grip. In a whirlwind of movement, they broke away from the chokehold that tethered him to his fate. Run! He urged, and the three of them bolted toward the exit, the door a shimmering mirage of hope. Behind them, the guards regrouped with menacing growls. Get them! The icy woman yelled, her voice slicing through the turmoil. They barreled out of the room and into the unsuspecting hallways of the building. Arya's heart pounded in her ears, the sound echoing like a war drum. Which way? She gasped, glancing around at the sleek, modern interior that suddenly felt alien and hostile. Down the hallway. Mark shouted, pointing toward a narrow opening. They dashed, feet pounding against cold tiles, shadows dancing in the flickering fluorescent lights. The sharp sounds of boots echoed behind them, urgency cutting through the tension as they turned a corner and stumbled into another corridor, this one dimly lit. Panic dripped heavy, but there was no time for slowing down. Arya could feel her pulse racing, jagged breath stabbing through the air like knives. What do we do next? She asked breathlessly, glancing at Mark, who had managed to catch his breath. He looked back at her, realization dawning in his stormy gaze. We need to find the evidence. It's a sudden crash shattered the air again, followed by their pursuers' pounding steps. The door behind them burst open, and the stern woman appeared, eyes aflame with fury. You think you can escape? Terror struck deep in Arya's chest. We have to split up. She yelled, a pang of desperation creeping in. Before she could process it, Jake grabbed her hand, pulling her towards an adjacent staircase. Now! Go! As they separated, Arya's heart sank, despair clawing at her thoughts. She turned back for one last look at Mark, who nodded, determination replacing fear. The echoing footfalls of their pursuers grew louder, the chase intensifying with every frantic pulse of her heart. Which path would lead to freedom? How did the truth wind so intricately around them, binding their fates in ways they couldn't yet comprehend? As Arya and Jake raced down the stairs, the walls pulsed like a heartbeat, teetering on the edge of revelation and doom. Would they dare to uncover the web that ensnared them, or were they already in too deep to turn back? The questions churned in her mind like a tempest, as she dove further into the unknown. Where would this path of defiance lead? And would they be able to find the truth before it consumed them all? Arya sprinted down the dim stairwell, each footfall echoing like a drumbeat of dread. Jake raced alongside her, his face a mask of fear and determination. Do you think Mark's going to be all right? He gasped, breathless as they reached the bottom. I don't know. We need to keep moving. She urged, pushing through the thick air of uncertainty that clung to them, around them. The shadows thickened, as if they were being watched. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting eerie shapes on the wall. Every sound, every creak made Arya's skin crawl. She strained to hear the footsteps behind them, counting each pulse of sound that echoed up through the void. Time seemed to stretch, each second an eternity. They turned a corner and stopped dead. A long corridor stretched before them, lined with doors that all looked the same. Which one held hope? Which one led to ruin? Panic danced at the edges of her mind, and she could feel it start to claw its way in. They had to act. We need to find a safe place to hide. She urged. What if they catch us? Jake's voice trembled, Arya's heart sank. Then we won't let that happen. Not now. They noticed a rusty door at the end of the hallway, slightly ajar. Arya pushed Jake toward it. There. We can hide in there. They slipped inside, hearts pounding, breath hitching. The small room smelled of mold and dust, a forgotten hold of memories. A lone window offered a smattering of light, illuminating scattered papers and broken furniture. This was no safe haven, it was a tomb of broken dreams. As they crouched in the corner, silence engulfed them, heavy and suffocating. Arya pressed her back against the cold wall, her chest tight with fear. Do you think they'll find us? I don't know, Jake replied, scanning the room with wide eyes. We just have to wait. Moments passed like hours. Just as Arya began to convince herself they were in the clear, the door suddenly swung open. Light poured in, and the silhouette of the stern woman filled the frame, backlit and imposing. They're in here. She shouted, voice slicing through the air with chilling clarity. Arya's instincts flared. Without thinking, she grabbed a broken chair leg that lay discarded nearby and tightened her grip. She might be small, but she'd fight with everything that she had. Jake, we need to get ready, she whispered urgently. The woman stepped inside, and Arya could see the smirk spreading across her face, a cruel twist of satisfaction. Caught you little mice, she sneered, her voice low and menacing. Then, as if the world was running in slow motion, Jake lunged out from behind the door, charging the woman. Get away from us! He yelled, throwing his weight against her. The impact sent them both crashing to the floor. Arya's heart leaped to her throat. She sprang into action, brandishing the splintered chair leg, ready to defend her friend, when suddenly, the shock of a gunshot rang out. The sound was deafening, reverberating through the claustrophobic space and splitting the air like lightning. Arya froze, eyes wide, breath caught in her throat. But it was not pain or fear that coursed through her first. It was an icy realization. Jake fell back, wide-eyed, confusion painted across his features. What was that? Get down! Arya screamed, forgetting her fear and diving beside Jake just as the gathering tension released like a bomb, the air thick with smoke and adrenaline. Suddenly, the floor shook, and the walls rattled. What was happening? She risked a brief glance into the hallway, the blaring alarm bells echoing again. Arya, look out! Jake's voice jolted her back. What would happen next? Was the world collapsing around them? What lay in wait beyond the door? They needed answers and fast. The moment was ticking down, but fate had a twisted hand ready to play. As the dust settled and chaos flared around them, one question loomed heavy in the air: could they uncover the truth before it was too late? The echo of the gunshot faded, leaving an unsettling silence that felt as thick as fog. Arya clutched the chair leg, her knuckles white, her heart pounding like a wild drum in her chest. She and Jake were crouched low, the remnants of their sanctuary closing in like vultures awaiting their next meal. Is she dead? Jake's voice was barely a whisper, his eyes darting toward the doorway as if afraid to hope for the answer. Arya shook her head, straining to listen. She couldn't hear a thing but her own rapid breath. The woman, whoever she was, had fallen, but the silence felt ominous. Had she suffered? Was she incapacitated? Or worse, had she merely retreated to regroup? The faint sound of footsteps echoed in the corridor outside, footfalls heavy and purposeful. A chill raced down Arya's spine. They had to move before the shadows took them again. We need to get out of here, she urged tightly. Come on. Jake hesitated, his eyes wide with fear. Where do we go? We can't just run out there. Trust me, Arya pleaded, forcing herself to sound more confident than she felt. We can't stay hidden forever. Through the door, a soft rustle caught her attention. Arya quickly pressed her back against the wall, the splintered chair leg gripped firmly in her palm. The door creaked open. A figure cloaked in darkness loomed in the frame, another body, but this one radiated an air of authority. "Doesn't anyone know how to keep quiet?" The newcomer called, his voice smooth but tinged with irritation. Arya squinted, trying to make out more details in the shifting light. Was he friend or foe? "Hello." He called again, stepping into the room with a measured, almost casual elegance. "I know you're in here." The moment stretched out painfully, and Arya felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Was he sent to find them, or had he come to help? With a deep breath, Arya stepped forward, chair leg poised like a sword. "Who are you?" "Just a guy trying to find a peaceful resolution to a messy situation," he replied. His gaze swept over the room, lingering on the woman lying motionless on the floor. "And it looks like you've already stirred the pot." "What do you mean?" Jake asked, edging closer to Arya, his worry palpable. The man bent down to examine the fallen woman. "Let's just say, she had her own agenda. You seem caught in the crossfire." Before Arya could respond, another loud crash came from the hallway, followed by more footsteps, this time hurried and panicked. "She's alive." The voice called out, fierce and demanding. "Check the room. They can't escape." Arya's breath hitched. Their window of escape was closing rapidly. "Listen, I can help you," the man said, looking directly at Arya with intensity in his eyes. "But you have to trust me. We need to get out, and we need to go now." "What's your name?" Arya demanded, her guard still up. "Carter." "But names don't matter right now." His urgency was infectious, and for a split second, she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. Could she really trust him? Without waiting for an answer, Carter moved toward the window, prying it open. "This way, hurry." Arya glanced at Jake, who looked as if he might bolt. "We have to take the chance," she insisted, her heart racing. "We don't have a choice." As they scrambled toward the window, the footsteps grew louder, and shadows blurred at the edges of their vision. The thrill of danger crackled in the air. Suddenly, fresh screams rang out from the hallway, cutting through the tension. "They're here. Over there." Panic ignited. Without another thought, they climbed through the window, the cool breeze hitting their faces like a shocked gasp of reality. Arya landed hard on the ground, the chill of the earth grounding her in the chaos. She looked around, her heart pounding. The world outside felt strangely quiet, but danger lurked just a breath away. "Which way?" Jake panted, panic rising in his voice. Carter pointed down an alley that seemed to narrow with every heartbeat. "We run until we can't run anymore. They'll be looking for you. We have to stay one step ahead." As they took off down the alley, Arya's mind raced. Who was this Carter? Would he keep them safe? One thing was certain, their fight wasn't over. The shadows were closing in, and she felt the darkness creeping back as they ran. But behind them, in the building they just escaped, the woman stirred, eyes opening with a malevolent glimmer. What had they awakened, and were they truly ready for what lay ahead? With the thud of their escaping footsteps echoing down the alley, the question lingered, had they just jumped from the frying pan into the fire? Arya ran, her legs pumping like pistons, fear surging through her veins. The alley stretched endlessly, shadows shifting as if they had a life of their own. Jagged bricks and broken pavement clawed at her sneakers, but there was no time to dwell on the pain. Ahead, Carter moved with purpose, leading them into the unknown. "Keep up!" he shouted, glancing back at them, urgency etched in every line of his face. "How far do we have to go?" Jake gasped, his breath hitching with every frantic step. "Far enough that they can't follow," Carter replied, his intensity a double-edged sword, comforting yet terrifying. They dodged into another alley, the world closing in around them. Arya's heart raced, not just from the physical exertion but from the gnawing unease that slipped into her mind like an unwelcome echo. What if they weren't just running from the woman? What if there was an entire network chasing them? What if they had unleashed something far worse? A sharp screech of tires on pavement pierced the air, and Arya's stomach dropped. She shot a glance down the street, where a black SUV skidded to a stop, tires screeching against the asphalt. Figures emerged, dark silhouettes against the blinding headlights. "They found us!" Jake cried, panic creeping into his voice like a cold wind. "Not yet," Carter said, pulling them into a doorway just as a barrage of voices erupted behind them, loud and menacing. "Stay low." Arya's heart raced as they ducked behind a dumpster, the metallic scent mixing with adrenaline. She could feel Jake's body trembling next to hers, his fear almost palpable. "Who are they?" Jake whispered, his voice barely above a breath. Carter's face was hard, eyes narrowing as he listened. "Not who, but what they are. They're hunters. And we've become their prey." A shiver ran down Arya's spine. Hunters. It didn't matter now. They were all in the same fight, and she needed to find a way out. She gripped the chair leg, a small token of her last stand, but for what? Her thoughts raced. Did she want to fight the darkness they had stumbled into? Or was survival the only goal? The voices became clearer, echoing off the walls. "Split up. She can't be far." A deep voice boomed. "Check every corner." Arya felt her heart clench. They were running out of time. "We can't stay here," she said, urgency twisting her insides. "Carter, what's the plan?" He glanced back at her, his gaze intense and searching. "We need a distraction. I'll create a diversion." "You two get." Before he could finish, the dumpster rattled, a loud crash echoing from beside them as someone kicked it violently. Arya's breath hitched. There was no time for plans. "Now!" Carter shouted. Without thinking, Arya darted from their hiding spot, adrenaline fueling her legs. She dashed toward the street, her mind screaming at her to keep moving. Behind her, screams erupted, a cacophony of chaos as Carter unleashed his distraction, leading their pursuers in another direction. "Arya! Over here!" Jake yelled, waving her toward a narrow alley on the left. She skidded to a stop beside him. "What are we going to do?" "Just trust me," he urged, not giving her a chance to object. They slipped into the alley, the shadows swallowing them whole. It was dark and damp, the air heavy like a wet blanket. Jake took a deep breath, his tension palpable. "I don't know how long we can keep this up. They are relentless." "Then we keep moving," Arya said, pushing down her rising fear. "We've survived this far. We can survive more." But as they turned a corner, they found themselves face to face with a wrought iron gate locked tight at the end of the alley. Hope crumbled like dry leaves underfoot. "Great," Jake said with a sarcastic laugh. "Now what?" Before she could answer, a figure emerged from the shadows, not Carter, but the woman they had left behind. She stood tall, defiantly, a smirk playing on her lips. "You think you can escape that easily?" Her voice dripped with venom, echoing off the cold brick walls. "You have no idea what you're up against." Arya's heart sank. They were cornered with nowhere to run, the darkness pressing in. Heavier than before. "What do you want?" Jake demanded, barely keeping his voice steady. A sinister smile blossomed on the woman's face, and for a moment, it felt like time stopped. "Oh, I want to have some fun before I finish what was started." With that, the night filled with a chilling laughter, wrapping around them like a silent storm. Arya felt ice claw at her veins. Had they just run from the frying pan into the fire, or was this just the beginning of something far darker? As the woman stepped closer, shadows danced behind her, and Arya's instinct screamed, fight or flight. But the gate was behind them, and there was nowhere left to hide. What would they do now? Arya's heart pounded like a war drum as she stared at the ominous figure blocking their way. The woman radiated menace, her laughter echoing through the narrow alley like a sinister melody. Panic surged within her, but in that moment, resolve ignited like a spark in the dark. "We're not afraid of you," Arya declared, voice stronger than she felt, fists clenched tight around that splintered chair leg. Jake stepped closer, tension coiling between them, ready to act as one. "Oh, but you should be," the woman sneered, plating her words with disdain. "You think you can just slip away from this world? You're far more entangled than you realize." Shadows nestled around her like loyal companions, dark and swirling, but Arya didn't have time for fear. "What are you talking about?" She shot back, sensing how crucial it was to grasp their opponent's true intentions. "Ever heard of the game of power? It's all a matter of who pulls the strings," the woman purred, eyes glinting with arrogance. "You think you're fighting for freedom? This is a game played in blood, sweet girl. And you've just stepped into the lioness' den." Arya caught Jake's eye, a silent question passing between them. What did she want from them? There were no more questions to be asked, only actions required now. "You're wrong if you think we'll just roll over," Jake hurled back, standing side by side with Arya, his bravado a flickering light against the gathering darkness. A cruel smile spread across the woman's face. In her confidence, Arya detected a weakness. "You can't fight a system that won't let you win," she said. But the woman leaned closer, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Perhaps, you can become a part of it." That pierced Arya like a sharp weapon. "Join you?" She spat, defiance glimmering in her eyes. "What you do is a betrayal of everyone looking for hope." "Hope?" The woman laughed, the sound laced with bitterness. "Hope is a farce people cling to when reality fails them. I offer power a chance to rewrite your script." "No." Arya felt fury and clarity collide within her. "I've seen enough of games played with people's lives. We're not pawns, we're the players." "Then you'll learn the cost of refusal," she snapped, stealing her gaze. All at once, a fierce surge of adrenaline flooded Arya's veins. "We'll break your game," she shouted, charging at the woman without thinking. It was a reckless move, impulsive, but sometimes instincts were the best compass. The woman recoiled, surprised, enough for Jake to dart past her, grasping Arya's hand. They bolted down the alley, urgency fueling their steps. Behind them, cries of confusion erupted, mixed with outrage. The woman's furious voice sliced through the night, demanding they stop. The shadows lurked, restless like predators sensing the shift in the atmosphere. "Are we safe?" Jake questioned, panting heavily as they turned another corner, the adrenaline still coursing through their bodies. "For now," Arya said, uncertainty clinging to her words. But there was no time for second-guessing. They raced on, determined to put distance between them and the looming threat. As they rounded another corner, a new sound intruded, the roar of an approaching vehicle. Their escape route seemed to shrink with each heartbeat. "Get down!" They ducked just in time behind a parked car as a black SUV screeched to a halt, lights flashing on, a flood of shadows spilling into the streets. A sudden ache settled in Arya's chest, the weight of choices ahead pressing upon her. "We're not done yet," she ensured, her voice wavering only slightly. "Where do we go from here?" Jake asked, uncertainty gracing his features as he peeked over the car's hood. Arya's eyes darted around, catching sight of a narrow alleyway branching off to their left, shadowy but free of pursuers. "We start by moving away from the chaos." They took off down that alley, fleeing into the unknown, hearts pounding as they pressed forward. The streets thinned, hope sprang anew in the darkness, but there was still doubt swimming beneath the surface. They had to know the truth, the dark underbelly of the world now buzzing around them. They needed to find Mark. After what felt like hours of sprinting, they halted for a moment, gasping for breath. The fear that had clutched them now brushed away by determination. They turned to face one another. "We can't stop. Not until we find out what this is really about." "We owe it to ourselves," Arya said, a fierce light sparking in her chest. "Agreed," Jake nodded, fire igniting his eyes. "And with the way they scared Mark, we have to help him." So they forged onward, hearts pounding with fury and boldness, unwilling to back down. The next few streets felt different. They didn't echo with urgency, but with revelation. They found a small diner with flickering neon lights buzzing in the twilight, suggesting warmth. And warmth felt like safety. "Let us go inside," Jake suggested, stepping toward the door, his hand outstretched, pushing through the threshold. The comforting smells of fries and coffee enveloped them like a soothing embrace. They slid into a booth, catching their breath. "What's next?" Arya inquired, her mind racing through countless scenarios, fears hanging like heavy clouds. "We find Mark. He's wrapped up in this," Jake said with certainty. "He knows more than we do. He can help us cut through the web." "What if they got him?" Arya said softly, the momentary wave of despair washing over her. "No, he's out there, we just need to find him." As they strategized, Arya could feel a flicker of hope rekindling, the urgency connecting them into something larger than themselves. They could fight this together. They had to, and among the unknown that stretched before them, Arya took a deep breath, feeling like she might finally be on the brink of something more than just survival, something bigger, something worth chasing. With that echoing resolve, they stepped into the fight head first, ready to uncover the truth no matter what it cost them. Then a shadow loomed behind them. A familiar face, weary and battle-worn. "Arya." "Jake," Mark said, a hint of relief flooding his voice. "I knew you'd find me," Arya breathed, her heart swelling as a new chapter unfolded before them. The stakes were high, but they weren't alone anymore. They were bound by their shared mission. Together, they would rise from the ashes that threatened to consume them. Now, from fear to destiny, prepared to illuminate the darkness lingering over their lives, ready to carve a path of truth that couldn't be erased. The only thing left to do was fight back, but the battle was far from over. This was just the beginning. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. Support the channel, and let's continue this journey together. Don't wait even one more second to share.